All right, today we're diving into a really dramatic philosophical showdown from an ancient Buddhist text, the Udumbarikasutta. It's an incredible story. You've got pride, you've got wisdom, and a public challenge that really gets to the heart of what matters on the spiritual path.
So, to set the scene, our story starts with these two totally different approaches to spiritual life in ancient India. On one hand, you've got this group of wanderers, and their camp is just buzzing with loud debates. And they're talking about kings, wars, all kinds of worldly stuff. But on the other hand, you have the Buddha and his followers, and they've chosen the quiet, deep silence of the forest to do their work. Two very different worlds, right?
Okay, so let's meet our first main character, Nigrodha. He's the leader of these wanderers, a really respected guy. But here's the thing. He looks at the Buddha's quiet, secluded way of doing things, and he doesn't see strength. No, he sees weakness. He's convinced the Buddha is hiding out, avoiding public debate, because in his words, he has an empty mind. And he doesn't just think this, he says it out loud. He makes this super bold, public challenge. He's totally confident that his loud, showy style of spiritual practice is the right one. He's basically saying, hey, if that guy Gautama ever shows his face here, we'll trap him with one single question. We'll show everyone he's just an empty pot.
Well, speak of the devil. The Buddha apparently overheard this whole thing, and he just appears before the group. Now, you'd expect a big argument, right? But instead of defending himself or getting into a fight, he does something absolutely masterful. He just ignores the insult, turns to Nigrodha, and says, "Tell me about your practice."
Now, this is a really important term here, tapo-jigucha. It's this idea that you can find spiritual purity through really extreme, punishing physical hardship, self-mortification. This is Nigrodha's whole deal. And the Buddha, so cleverly, zeroes right in on it. He asks him, okay, Nigrodha, so tell me, what does a perfect practice of this actually look like?
And Nigrodha is more than happy to explain. He proudly lists off this absolutely grueling set of practices: sleeping on thorns, eating dung, wearing clothes made out of human hair, you name it. It's intense. And the Buddha just listens patiently and says, you know what? By that definition, you're right. Your practice is perfect. But then he asks the one question that changes everything. He asks, is that perfect practice actually pure? Or could it be corrupted by flaws you can't even see? He's suggesting that something can look perfect on the outside, like this shiny apple, but be completely rotten on the inside. It's not about what you're doing with your body, it's about what's going on in your head.
And this introduces another key idea, upakilesa. Think of them as mental blemishes or stains on the mind. These are the things that can take all that incredible physical effort and make it, well, spiritually worthless.
Okay, so here's the first blemish: pride. The Buddha explains that an ascetic could be doing all these difficult things, but inside they're becoming really proud and self-satisfied. They start to fall in love with their own suffering, and that pride, that's a major corruption. Blemish number 2 is contempt. This is when they start using their hardship as a weapon. They look down on other people who are on a different path, maybe one that's not so tough physically, and they just feel contempt. They use their own practice to criticize and belittle everyone else. And the third one is jealousy and anger. Can you imagine, after all that physical suffering, they might see another teacher getting praise and respect, and instead of being happy for them, they get filled with envy and anger. It just completely poisons the well of their entire practice. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that the outer stuff, the physical practice, is just not enough. The Buddha has totally taken apart Nigrodha's whole idea of purity. And now he offers his own vision, using this really beautiful and powerful metaphor of a great tree. He says the real spiritual path is like a tree. It has layers. And here's the trap. You can't just grab a piece of the outer bark and fool yourself into thinking you've got the core. You have to go deeper.
That outer bark, that's just the very first step. It's cleaning up your practice, getting rid of those mental blemishes we just talked about, the pride, the contempt, the jealousy. It's absolutely crucial, but it's the starting line, not the finish line.
Okay, so once you get past the bark, you reach the sapwood. Now we're getting to the real inner work. This is about building strong ethics, clearing out all the mental junk that holds you back, and, importantly, developing this feeling of boundless, loving kindness for absolutely everyone. All right, let's keep going deeper, moving towards the core. This is where the journey shifts from just cleaning things up to gaining real, profound insight.
The next layer in is the heartwood. This represents a much deeper kind of knowledge. The text talks about it as being able to remember your own past lives. But it's not just about, being a history buff for your own soul. It's about getting this deep, direct insight into how karma works. Seeing for yourself how actions and consequences are connected across time. And finally, we get to the very center, the core of the tree, the sadhvasana. This is it. This is the ultimate goal. We're talking about total freedom, the complete, irreversible wiping out of all those mental stains. It's what people often call enlightenment.
So, after the Buddha lays all this out, you could hear a pin drop. The entire group of wanderers is just stunned. They've just realized that what their teacher was so proud of was only the bark. And then, to make things worse for Nigrodha, one of his own supporters calls him out. This householder, Sandhyana, who was just there listening, stands up and basically throws Nigrodha's own words right back at him. He says, "Well, here he is, the Blessed One. Go on, trap him like an empty pot. Now's your chance." It's an incredible moment.
So what does Nigrodha do? Nothing. Absolute silence. He's totally humbled, completely exposed, and he just sits there, head down, unable to say a thing. He has to admit he was a fool, that his own pride just ran away with him.
But the Buddha, is incredibly gracious. He accepts the apology, and then he does something amazing. Out of pure compassion, he makes this astonishing offer, not just to Nigrodha, but to all 3,500 of his followers who were there.
He promises that any one of them, if they're honest and sincere, could reach that core, could find total liberation in 7 years. And nobody says a thing, so he sweetens the deal. How about 1 year? Still nothing. 7 months? Silence. He keeps going, 1 month, all the way down to just 7 days. And here's the really sobering end of the story. Out of thousands of people, not a single person volunteers. Not one is willing to give it a shot for even 7 days. Think about that. The Buddha just laid out the entire map, from the bark all the way to the core, and even offered to be their guide, and nobody moved. It just leaves you with this haunting question that's still so relevant today. When the path to wisdom is laid out right in front of you, what is it that stops us from taking that very first step?